Hi gang, Scott here. Continuing our march through the Luminar AI tools in the creative group, we're on the glow tool. And this tool has a few different options. There are a few different types of glow looks we can add. I'll run through all the controls, the different options we have in this tool in this video. I'll use an example of a landscape photo. I'm not a landscape guy, and I like glow looks on my landscapes. They're a good finishing touch to a photo. Really quick, if you're thinking about adding Luminar AI to your toolkit, check the show notes. There's an offer code down there that'll save you a little bit of money, give me a little bit of support so I can come back and do more videos like this. And if you like tutorials like this, please subscribe to the channel. Let's have a look at the glow tool. Well, the glow tool is down toward the bottom of our creative group here. And let me open up all of the controls so we can see everything. The first is the type of glow that we have. We have 4 different types: soft focus, glow, Orton effect, and Orton effect soft. And the names are a little bit confusing and they don't really quite suggest everything that's going on. Maybe Orton, if you know what the Orton looks like. But let's do this. Let's push this amount slider really, really high. Okay. Now this is not what we're going to do to this photo, but this will allow us to see what's going on with each one of these looks. So soft focus, well, certainly we get a very blurred, dreamy kind of just softness. It is targeted toward the brighter areas. If I start down very low, as I push, notice that it's the brighter areas that are taking on that glow first. Yes, there is some softness happening in the shadows, but it's kind of progressive, right? Nothing at all. And pretty quickly, even with just a small amount of 2 or 3, we start to see that push through. This, I think, is a good glow look, more for portraits or maybe just a lifestyle kind of photo. A little bit less for landscapes because it tends to be very aggressive, very fast, but it does target just the highlights. Glow itself, this one's more tempered, and this definitely targets bright areas. I mean, I'm pushing this very far, and all we see is the sky getting brighter. So another one that is good for portraits or candid photos of people, lifestyle photos. For our landscapes, Orton effect and Orton effect soft. Now the Orton effect, it's an older school technique with film where you take 2 photos and one of them would be sharp, one of them would be like a longer exposure, and you do that double exposure and get some blurring going on. But it is a nice amount of glow, and again you'll see that it is adaptive, right? As I push this to the right, we're seeing the brighter areas glow first and the shadow areas less so. Now, yes, I can push this very far and get everything to get very soft. You can see that kind of bleeding like around this edge here, where that should be a darker, crisp item in the photo, right? But because we're pushing that glow really far. My point here is that both Orton effect, and we look at Orton effect soft, which is much less contrasty. It kind of almost washes out the shadows. But it's an adaptive glow look, and it does what is most natural. It will amplify glow in brighter areas, and yes, there'll be some in the shadow areas, but it's downplayed. And that's just what happens in nature. Bright things glow, dark things don't. So the tools understand that. And that's nice because to try to do masking in Luminar AI, to try to remove things, you can do that. You've got your masking tools here, but there isn't a luminosity mask to target brights and shadows. So the fact that the tools have that built in is pretty good. Now, what about the rest of the controls? All we talked about is amount, right? It's like how much or how little. But we have these other things here. I'm going to use Orton effect on this one because I think that'll give us the most obvious changes here. Let me push this relatively aggressively here. Softness, as you would expect, it's like how diffused is that glow? And it's really focusing on like edges. Take a look at the edge of this rock compared to the sky. As I lower softness, we see less diffusion there. If I push it really far, we can see it get washed out. And of course, the clouds are as well. All these edges on the clouds are getting smooth. So a small amount of softness is usually good. The default's usually pretty spot on. Brightness. I'm going to either brighten the photo or darken the photo. This is fundamentally our exposure slider, or if you're using the Accent AI tools. So if you need to adjust things because the effect, the glow that you're doing, usually it's more like, it kind of got a little bit too bright. Let me dial that back a little bit. Right, let me reset this Orton effect up here. The brightness by default is at 0, and sometimes you want to pull that back a little bit because the glow tends to amplify the brighter areas, making those glow. If it gets too hot, you can rein it in. If you need more contrast, we have a contrast slider here. You can make a very washed out look. Usually a little bit of contrast is added by default for these glow looks. Once again, it's that shadow and light crossplay there. I want to make sure you maintain some deep shadows. You just take a before and after there. Notice how deep those shadows are already. When we add that glow, they really, really go dark, right? So with a glow look, you may be using it in combination with other things to rein back in certain tones. The final slider, we have warmth. We can cool the photo or warm the photo. That's a convenient slider, really. If you notice you need to make an adjustment there are other controls here. But looking at this photo, when I'm all said and done, I'll probably go back and revisit something like maybe the light tool, just to get those shadows open back up some. I don't want to take it all the way up, but I didn't want to lose some of the detail that's down in those lower bits of shadows there. But for the glow, let's take a look at the glow before and after. Before that change, after that change, and I might dial back the strength on that a little bit. It seems a little bit strong for my tastes. Before and after. And I do think I will reach for that masking tool. Paint mask, erase, maybe about a half strength brush, and just kind of take some of that glow out of the rocky area here. That way I can keep some of that detail in that rock without having to go too crazy on the exposure sliders and compensating elsewhere. Sometimes it's just simpler to do a little bit of masking and maybe one or two more sweeps in the really deep areas. There we go. Let's close that up. Before, after, a nice accent. I think that's a good touch to this photo. So that is the glow tool in Luminar AI. Hope this video gave you some ideas about how you might use it in your photography. Got questions? Go ahead and drop them below. And until next time, my name's Scott Davenport. Have fun.